Welcome to Manual Work is a Bug, a podcast about the future of work and life with artificial intelligence, with your hosts, Hillary and Matthew Black.
Hello.
Hello.
Welcome back. It's been a while since we've talked on this. About 6 years.
This is Manual Work is a Bug.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So welcome back, everyone who is listening or watching to Manual Work is a Bug.
What is 6 years ago? What was going on 6 years ago? What was the year?
So August 2020 is when we first recorded this podcast.
Jesus Christ.
To give you some context to two of our previous episodes, our first episode was Will Robots Take Our Jobs? Which is something that people are still talking about every single day. And the second episode, to tell you where AI was we discussed general versus narrow AI, AGI, and OpenAI's latest release, GPT-3. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are we on now?
I actually don't know what the latest OpenAI model is, but it's 5 something.
Yeah, I think it's like 5.3 or 5.4.
Yeah, but I also don't think the numbers matter that much to them because they do like multiple model versions. I mean, where we're at is just is just different. The whole thing is different. Like GPT-3 was like this was so wait, I don't even think the episode was talking about GPT, if I remember correctly. I think it was just the API access, but ChatGPT I don't even think came out yet.
No.
So we were talking about this before the explosion of ChatGPT, which I think was like 2022. Yeah, something like multiple years after we made that episode.
Yeah, so it makes sense that we have not recorded an episode for 6 years.
Yeah, we've been busy.
Yeah, so that's what we're here to talk about today. And to just take a step back, I guess, and introduce ourselves. I am Hillary Black, and I am the head of brand at MAV. And with me is...
my name is Matthew Black. I'm the founder of MAV, the visionary, the founder.
The guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's me. Same guy.
Yeah, so we're here. Main difference now, same podcast, same topics. We definitely were a bit ahead of our time in terms of what we were talking about, and we're going to get a little bit into that today. Also, our podcast is now on video, so if you listened before and you would like to watch us, hey, we're on YouTube, so you can watch us there. But I think just to take a step back and I kind of go back to our earlier episodes and things like that before we get into the backstory of how we're here, why we're here. I do want to talk about, the GPT-3 thing, because at that time it was only for developers. ChatGPT definitely did not exist. Claude was probably not even an idea at this point. It was something that it was like you were just starting to use it and seeing how you could use it, and it was more about like AI tools and API and how you can kind of start to bring AI into what you're doing. But at the time, like, it was chatbots were it. Like, there was NLP kind of, but no one really knew what that meant, and that was just kind of where we were then.
Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like taking a few seconds to just like put myself back in that period. Like, I have to be honest, I'm not even sure I fully understood what LLMs were back then. Like, I feel like back then, people looked at them like it almost in a machine learning way, like a state machine kind of way, right? Like, and as we know now, they're very, very different. They're extraordinarily capable, but they're still dumb in some sense. They're still turn models. They still... you do a thing, I do a thing, like we take our turn, like, and there's actually, to be honest, in like 5 years from now, we're going to be talking about something new. Like, I think there's new types of models that are not LLM based that are starting to come to the surface that are very interesting. If we're still doing the podcast at that point, then maybe something's wrong. But anyways, I mean, like, I remember I remember when 3 came out, GPT-3, and thinking about it in terms of like a very machine learning type of way. Like, hey, did this thing we did, was it correct? Yes or no, based off the data you have, right? And I also remember when ChatGPT came out a couple years ago, I remember sitting down and like writing this big old LinkedIn post where I was like, the future is still NLP and the future is still, decision logic, tree logic, because this thing hallucinates so much and no one's going to be able to control it. And there's no way that like people are going to trust these models to run their business. And for that reason, it's a cute toy, but like, it's not the future. Holy shit, was I wrong? I feel like that's cool to have this episode and be like, there was so much to learn throughout that period. And like, I don't think, like there's that thing that people say where it's like humans underestimate, or sorry, they overestimate the change in 1 year and they underestimate the change in 10 years. It's because as humans, we can't understand exponential change. And even me, like a technologist, like someone who's really on like the frontier of like this new tech, still couldn't understand that if we increase the size of models, increase the compute, increase like all these things, that it will get significantly better and people will figure out ways to guardrail things and control things. And even Fable, which I don't know when this is coming out, but Fable just came out last week, and then immediately the government shut it down because it's too powerful. Like, that's crazy. Yeah, I mean, simply put, a lot of stuff has changed in 6 years.
Yeah, and it's interesting, so many of the things that you're saying about like people saying it hallucinates, like taking turns, like we thought we could be this and we're this, actually reminds me a lot of what else we can talk about too. Is even before we had this podcast, like rewind back to 2016, 2017 when chatbots first came out. And that was kind of, how we got our start into this before Mav even existed. But just thinking about how dumb they were, and even like, is it worse? And I would love to know your thought of like, is it worse to have something that is hallucinating that you have to put guardrails around, or something that just like straight up doesn't work if you say the wrong thing? Because that's like where we were, is people were like, how are people going to trust this? Like, it can't do anything. And it literally like could not do anything.
That's a great question. Like, when we edit this, like we should put like some like call outs.
Yeah.
Is it worse to have a chatbot that hallucinates or doesn't work?
That like breaks.
Yeah, like that's actually a fascinating question. I want to think about that in a second. But also, shout out to the guy who created SmarterChild. I feel we don't talk about this man enough. And that's the real inventor of chatbots. And that happened in the 90s, for the record. Mm-hmm. Maybe even the 80s. I don't know.
It was like the mid-90s.
When we used it as kids. But even before that, the chatbot was a thing. So what happened in 2016, and we were very lucky to be kind of looped into this whole thing, but the reason why chatbots started getting popular is because Facebook had an initiative to put commerce behind it. Like they saw their jump with WhatsApp and Messenger, and they thought that, and the majority of their revenue is through the advertising, right? So how do you get advertising into a conversational form? They had a whole initiative to build an ecosystem where brands could build interactive chatbots inside of Messenger. At that time, we were an agency called Black Ops. We were working with a fashion company from New Zealand. We'll leave it at that. They were picked to be one of the launch partners for Facebook to build one of these chatbots. And I remember at the time sitting down with our CTO at the time, who was on the original episode, Mauricio, and thinking, whoa, this is super cool. Like, it's elementary, right? Like, quick replies and yes and no and if this and if that, like very, very elementary. But like, I could see that vision. And the reason I was so bullish on that vision is because as a consumer, I had done so much of my financial buying and transacting over SMS. Like I think that year I bought a car over SMS. Like I was shopping for loans, home loans over SMS. And like, even though it's peer to peer, human to human, the channel of like having a conversational experience, not just peer to peer, friend to friend, family to family, but also like shopper to business made complete sense to me. So I was very bullish on that vision. We got brought in before Facebook released this ecosystem. We ended up building a launch example for that fashion company. And we actually even open sourced a lot of tech back then because there was no platform to do any of this stuff. You just it was API docs, go build a little experience, and you push it out through Facebook Messenger. And what happened after that was pretty astonishing. We ended up getting connected to a few other brands. Another one of those brands was actually Mass Mutual. And their head of marketing for their life insurance division, they're called Haven Life at the time, reached out and they said, hey, we also really like this medium. Can you help us build an experience that will generate a life insurance quote in Messenger? Which, even saying that right now, is pretty cool. But this was 2017, 18. I was like, hell yeah, let's do it. So we sat down, we worked with them very, very closely. We ended up launching this experience in Facebook Messenger. That year, Facebook had their F8 conference, which is like their annual kind of yearly conference. The Zuck speaks at it. It's a big deal. It's streamed out live. We were featured when they got to the Messenger as like, this is what you do on Messenger. And they called us out. They called out Haven Life. It was super, super cool. That year we got put on Ad Age.
Sunday dinner.
No, but it was Ad Age.
Yeah.
Rockstar Agencies to Watch list.
Yep.
We were 10 out of 10, the chatbot agency.
Yeah.
So we just started getting calls. We got calls from all sorts of Fortune 500s. And, we were a digital agency, so we did all this other work. But now all of a sudden, we're getting all this inbound for Fortune 500s. I'm like, screw that other work. Let's just do this work. We had done so many iterations around creating these chatbots for financial services companies, really, that in 2019, I was like, well, this sounds like we're doing the same thing a lot. We probably should make a product out of this. And Mav was born out of that. Mm-hmm. And obviously, we took a lot of different approaches since then, and we dialed things in. And, now we kind of found our home in insurance, like specifically PNC for now. But it was a journey of really just being very early on, having a personal attachment to the channel and seeing that vision, that shared vision, and then also just building a lot of tech for the space, right? Like, we're very big on open source, and we wanted to participate in that, and but there's a lot of funny things that happened over the years. I think about that one for the dog company that I won't name. That can I share that story real quick?
Yeah, go for it.
So
a subscription
dog company, let's leave it there.
Yeah.
All great people. Like I love all the people we worked with. We built one of these chatbots for this brand, and this must have been like 2017 or something. And the whole concept was like you could text your dog. Like you'd have a conversation with your dog, ask it questions.
Mm-hmm. They would like text you pictures with like
it
looked like your dog was like in jail for like
it was like a
eating all the
game.
treats.
It was super cool. It was a great
Super
vision.
Cool.
And this was one of the first experiences that we were using our own tooling for. So we had like open sourced a bunch of tooling, and I was like, this is gonna be the first one we're gonna use. We're gonna power completely on our tooling. It's better, it's easier, and like we,
and it was SMS too.
It was SMS, yes, it was SMS. That's right. We had gotten really big into SMS. We had our own short code.
Yeah.
We were really ahead of that game back then. And we launched this experience, and all of a sudden, I'm logging into the portal for the telephony company we're using, and I'm seeing just a trail of messages to one number. I'm like, uh-oh. Long story short, we ended up sending 10,000 messages to one consumer in the span of like 1 minute. And like they had like complained. They were like, what is happening? Because it's a short code. You can't like stop it. So anyways, that was like one of the.
So their dog texted them.
Yeah, their dog ended up
10,000
texting them
times.
10,000 times in 1 minute on our experience. So it was a fun little learning, but.
Yeah, it was the Wild West then. And I do have to say too, it's just like I wonder, and you didn't answer my earlier question, but I do wonder too if like the reason why, and I think of like my experience like in these early days as well, and like the way that chatbots always like instantly made sense to me. Like it made perfect sense to me. And sure, I had worked in social media like for brands, interacting with users like through Twitter and through like all of that kind of stuff. So I understood like how people wanted to talk to those people. But I do really think that like the reason why it made sense to me was because of SmarterChild. Like I think if I didn't have that early experience where I was going on AIM and I was messaging, and there were other ones too. There was like weather ones, there was like fact ones, there was other ones that you could message. And that always felt like something that just was fun to me. Like I would go on there and chat with it just as much and like wanted to know how it worked and like wanted to know all these things. And I still like think back to that. But it always just made sense to me that people would interact with things in this way versus like calling, going to their website, sending them an email, and all these things that were not natural.
Yeah, I think you could even keep going. Like, do you remember that thing you would call as a kid? It would tell you
The weather?
Yeah, it would tell you if like school's canceled. And like, I don't know if you remember this, but I vividly remember, because we grew up in the Midwest. It snows a lot of snow days. I vividly remember calling this thing, and they would have to loop through all the schools, right? And like my school was the end, like alphabetically. And like you'd get through and it'd be like, school's canceled, school's canceled, school's canceled. And for Southwest, open. And I'd be like, oh my God. And sometimes it'd be the other way. I'd be like, cool, mine's closed and others are open. But I remember that being like the IVR where you would have to like press these buttons and like same concept, same thing, but like not a human, but I'm still interacting with a brand and a company.
Yeah, and it just, to me, it's obviously still makes sense. Like we're still doing it today. We still think that it's the way that people should first be trying those channels and things like that. But I do think that a lot of that, like probably just when we grew up, that's how the technology was then. And that was something that I always felt so strongly connected to, even when I was creating brands or when I, am working with brands and trying to see what's their voice going to be? How are they going to interact with people? Are they going to use emojis as long sentence or short? Like those are all the exact same principles. And it just like made sense to me right away.
Yeah.
How it has changed and obviously how things have gone from being like scripts and predetermined and everything into like more open that is harder to control is different. And I think you almost have to be like more strategic about the way that you're creating it, just because it has to be so specific or else it will be like anything to anyone. But before, and to go back to my earlier question of like chatbots versus LLMs, is like before, if you were not being as strategic with it and you were leaving it too open, it would just like shut off. Like it would just not work. It would be in loops. It would be just like failing. And and that's a different thing. Like sure, you're protecting the company a little bit more and you're not just allowing like talking and talking and talking, but it's still at the end of the day is like just a bad experience.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to your original question of like what's worse, hallucinating or just not doing the job, I arguably think hallucinating is still worse, because there was an art. I don't know if you remember this, but there was an art to failing. Like we used to have this thing called a catch-all system, and it was like a multi-level way to gracefully handle intent that you don't understand, right? So it could be like a question about a specific policy, or like, do you cover this condition, right? We would have like a multi-step process that if there really was intent that we determined was better suited for humans, human handoff, right? Or if we determined, oh, they just need to give extra clarification,
Yeah,
right?
be
We can walk them through
routed.
that. And like that was like the stuff that I almost remember us talking about, like, let's design for failure first and then make the happy path. And I feel like that made everything better. And yeah, did it fall over? And yeah, if we looked at it today, would we be like, this thing sucks? Like, probably. But like also, it still was a good curated process. And like one of the things that look, like the world picked its position. Like the world's picked what it values. And unfortunately, what they did pick is the lack of curation in this experience. And like it makes me a little sad because I'm a huge fan of curation. Like I think of like, all the top video games and like what it takes to make Grand Theft Auto. Like those are real art forms that in this world are becoming increasingly harder to pull off because like the bigger the model gets, it doesn't matter how much instructions you give it in terms of persona, it's all going to remind you of something you've already felt because that's just how models work, right? And like I think of like how drastically we could change the chatbots of yesterday. Like literally no two chatbots were the same because you curated it like literally from the top down. And in this world, like even if you give it instructions on persona and temperature and weight and all this stuff, I could probably look at that and say, that's still, part of the same tool set that we all know and trust, right? So, but, in terms of value delivered, it's extraordinarily useful. Like I'm still astonished by how good these models are getting. We're literally running our entire company through a model right now. Maybe more on that later, but like the value is undeniable. But dang, I wish it had a little bit more of a personality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, I agree there. It's funny, I gave a talk probably in like 2022 that was like how to fail. Like that was the entire thing. It was like how to design experiences for failure. And like I totally agree that we had this system and this strategy that was, I don't know that it really like made people happier, but I think you could resolve issues still. And that is kind of something that is missing now, is that I do think, LLMs can eventually realize that they have gone like beyond their depth and they might not understand, or they might need to kind of like bring things back. And they're not really doing that. They're not really saying like, hey, let me just stop and start from the beginning. Do you need this? Do you need this? Do you need this? But the benefit and like how we've been able to grow is not just about like chat too. It's just like about AI, like being able to take that conversation, move it down a path, do different parts of the job, do different things like we always had, that it was like every chatbot needed to have one specific goal and it could only have one goal and it could only do that one thing and it can't do more than that because that's just going to confuse people. And now it's like you can do this one thing and then, okay, now you want to do this other thing, and you can kind of just keep all of that together instead of being like, okay, now you have to get passed off to the customer support bot. Like now you have to get passed off to, oh, you did quoting, now you're a customer, like you can't go back here. Now you can kind of arrange things in a better way and like go deeper and deeper by having these experiences just like live on persistently.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. The other thing I was going to say about the persona and the curation and like the style of these things is we're one of the things that is weird to me how we got here, but I don't think we're ever going to not be here, is the projecting nature of the models. Like your model, my model all sound like they're ours, right? Mm-hmm. Because they're designed to reinforce the way we talk, we think, what it thinks we want to hear.
Yeah, they're like mirroring you.
Yeah, so that's the other thing that like I feel like the ability to show you something very, very different than you're used to in this world is becoming increasingly harder because, again, it's harder to tune these things outside of the creator's want and will, which, by the way, is just the internet. Like, it's just the internet. Like, that's why, like, when you really dive into these things, the differences, not the jobs that they do, but the differences between the core models of, like, OpenAI and Anthropic are actually a lot closer than you think because they're really just scraping the internet, like, and they're just more compute, more data, and then slightly fine tuning on top. But then on top of that, like, they're further tuned to talk like you, think like you. Like, the more memory you put on top as a single user makes it harder and harder. So I don't know. Anyways, I don't know why I'm talking about that, but I miss being able to do something crazy in this world, and it's just like the tech is working against creativity in a sense.
Yeah, and I think that's why it's like your brand, your company, your reputation is becoming more and more important because that is the only thing you have that differentiates you from every single person who has the exact same tools that you have. They have the exact same abilities, like they can do all the exact same things as you, and only you, the company person or you individual, can change the way that that's done. And the things that I'm sure we'll talk about this in a future episode, the things that humans are doing are the things that can separate it. Like being able to have a perspective that is different from every AI, everything, and something that is just created and done for humans by humans is like the differentiating factor, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So where do you think we're going to go next? That's kind of like, I think where we, not with the podcast, where do you think that we are going next? I mean, the most interesting thing to me is kind of like over the past, 8, almost 10 years that we've been doing this is the jump from zero AI, like no AI in chatbots in people's day-to-day life to like everything is AI native now. Everything is AI first. Everything is people understanding AI, any person out there is interacting with it in some way, like whether almost they want to or not. And that huge jump from nothing to everything. And it's like, where do you think people are going to kind of take this, or where do you want to take this next in terms of MAV and in terms of kind of just like growing in the insurance space and growing in MAV's capabilities and everything too? Like, where do you think we'll be in another 6 years?
Yeah, that's a massive question.
Yeah, I saved the best for last.
I feel like, we should be smoking doobies and having this question. I'm just kidding. Anyways, okay, so 3 things. 1, I'm reading a fantastic book right now. It's called We Are as Gods. It's by Peter Diamandis, who is like the 70s of democratizing, and like he's awesome. I love the way this guy thinks. He always looks at the data in terms of like whether we should be optimistic or pessimistic about stuff. And like, unfortunately, we're living in a very pessimistic world right now where like there's a lot of, and I knew this would happen, there's a lot of like pushback on, who owns AI, the real value AI. And like, unfortunately, there's a lot of narrative about AI taking everyone's jobs, which it's good to take some jobs, like just like every massive innovation, right? It's also going to create a lot of other jobs. You can pick how you want to look at that, right? But I really like the way he breaks down how to think about the pace of innovation right now. I think it's really important. I actually am going to finish the book, and I'm going to post in our general channel and buy it for everyone in the company, because I think they're like, to really think about what's coming, like you have to be comfortable with that happening. And like, I think there's a lot of people who just don't understand what's happening. I think there's a lot of people who like don't want it to happen. And then I think there's very few people who understand what's happening, want it to happen, and believe it's a good thing. Right. And I like I'm more in the latter bucket than not, but also I totally understand why this rate of innovation is scary to people. Um, I think where we're going is like like the innovation that we're seeing in LLMs is actually just the beginning. Like I think I think we're going to have models that are a lot more embedded as humans than we think. For example, the old CTO of OpenAI, I forget her name, super smart. She is starting to talk a lot more about the company she raised like, I don't know, $10 billion for. And she's working on a new type of model. I think they're called vision models. Correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't read too much about this, but uh, they're different in the way that LLMs work, where LLMs, like, you give me a bunch of information, hang tight, process, here you go, right? And there's this turn-based model where you're like, I take a turn, you take a turn, I take a turn, you take a turn, pause the memory, like, open up the laptop. It's like, when you say it like that, it's like, whoa, that's like really stupid, right?
Well, yeah, it's the same way that
websites work,
regular
it's
chatbots
transactions,
work.
like responses, like it's very machinery, right? And she's working on these models that her and her team that they're always alive. They can see you, they can see the way you're reacting, they can hear your tone of voice, like just like a human can, right? So it's not like this, like, hey, I'm gonna sit here and wait for a fully baked response, and then I'm gonna try to read through it and try to maybe determine that you're being sarcastic there or not. It's like, no, I'm looking at you. I know where there's hesitation. I know there's sarcastic. I know where there's like all these extra, like for a human to converse. Like this is second nature for us. Models haven't caught up. I think they're coming, and I think if you pair that stuff with the robotics that we've seen coming down, the autonomy that we see coming down, like we are here. We are 100% already living in a world of full abundance, and it's sporadic and it's choppy and it's uneven and it's really weird right now. But like, I think we're there. Like, and I think, to go back to that Ray Kurzweil book in the early 2000s, the singularity is near, singularity is here. Like, we have Neuralink already in the brain and it's successful for people already. Like, so I think this LLMs, like the idea that we can give everyone the intelligence of the smartest person ever to anyone ever, like that's here. And I think the further integration of that tech into humans, like we're just going to start to get there. I think it's going to become very second nature to have more integration with tech and human and all that weird stuff that is probably very scary to folks. But I don't see that slowing down at all, because going back to the book of We Are as Gods by Peter DeMontis, like we are living better, like substantially better by the numbers. Like, and it feels different. Sometimes it feels like we're in a worse place today, but by the numbers, like we're not. Like we used to live in a very dangerous place where a lot of people were dying of diseases. Like it was bad, or worse than it is today. I think a lot of that's getting better by the innovation. And again, it's a choppy road, and like there's a lot of conflict in there. But on the other side of that, I am an optimist that the more we innovate, the better things become. And I think the numbers will speak for themselves, and it will not stop. What the world looks like in 10 years, I don't even pretend to know, right? I just know that it's going to make this moment in time feel like it felt 6 years ago, but it will feel like this in 3 years. And then it'll feel like that in 1.5. And then it'll feel like that in a couple months. Like everything's getting exponential. Everything's getting cheaper. Everything's getting faster. So I have let go of trying to predict. I just know that it's coming faster, and it's probably going to hit us a lot quicker than we think. But I am of the optimistic mind that the world will get better. In terms of like what that means for Mav, we we want to democratize growth, right? That's like literally our core mission as a company. We want to democratize growth for insurance agencies. So wherever we see the ability to augment and provide value with AI, we're going to do that. Right now, we sit on the top of the funnel. We're going to continue to go more vertical. So whatever the jobs you're doing, from quoting on that get into producer land and potentially servicing land, can't share a full roadmap, but we're going to do as much as we can do to make agencies that much more efficient. And I think a year ago, I made a video about the first $10 million agency, right? Like, that's here. I'm pretty sure I read about that already, right? And I think it's a handful of really smart, high agency people who are deciding, hey, insurance is changing. We don't need everything we needed back in the day to actually do this. But also, in 10 years, I would caution, what is even insurance, right? I was actually talking with one of our customers the other day over lunch or over dinner, and we both believe that potentially in 10 years, with self-driving cars, maybe insurance is just a little check on when you buy something, right? Maybe it's not like an independent product that you shop for, right? And if that's the case, then, well, what is distribution, right? I mean, there was a time when you bought something, you would then have to call UPS and FedEx and be like, how much to ship this product? That's the world we live in today with insurance. Could you imagine buying something online and needing to do that? No, they're just bundled together. One is one, right? And the item just gets to you. So insurance, the product itself will be drastically different in 10 years. So, but again, I believe that where it's going will be better than today.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to continue to talk about this on a more regular basis than every 6 years. So, looking forward to getting back into some of this and talking more about the ways that we're using AI at the company, ways that it's changing things and everything that is coming down to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, before we go, I know you already shared one very funny and timely story about our history in making chatbots, but I did have one piece of Mav lore that we can share with everyone. And so can you tell people about the time that everything broke because a guy sent us a picture of his boat?
So wait, every episode we're going to do a funny thing like this?
Sure.
All right, cool. So similar to that earlier story where I was saying we sent too many messages to one person. Early on, we were working for, actually this brand was a little bit more notable, so this one might have been a little bit worse, but we were working with another large insurance provider. And they were having a conversation about getting something insured. And at the time, when we were building the framework, we were thinking messages, SMS. We definitely were not thinking about MMSs. So videos and pictures. We launched this chatbot. This guy ended up sending a picture of his boat because he was like, this is what I want to insure, which is actually super smart of him. Like, just to take a picture of the boat and be like, do you insure this boat? We didn't handle the image correctly and ended up looping and airing out, and it happened so fast that it crashed the entire server, brought the whole thing down, and that was an awesome technical lesson.
Yeah, and then you discovered that it was actually just a picture of a boat.
Well, we went to the logs, and then we're like, oh, this guy sent us a picture of his boat. That probably broke it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have for now.
Cool.
But until next time, we will be back, and that's it.
Cool. Love it.